G'day everybody, welcome back to the All Nations Hotel for Friday Front Bar. Thankfully, on a Friday, thanks to the Brewery Fresh Carlton Draft. Lovely to be here. It's good to have you back. What's wrong with you, mate?
I've just run into Sam Mitchell at the car park. It was a corky and run. It was some of his finest work.
I'm sure he's just trying to protect himself.
It was.
Are you all right?
Well, I'm okay. I'm back.
Well, you are the Obi-Wan Kenobi of this sort of stuff. You are the master deadlegger that I've ever known. How is his form?
His technique is good. He has to work on it, obviously. It's funny how it's always the good players, isn't it? I think he's got to work his way through the All-Australian team at some stage. He's got Fife, he's got Tex Walker.
Ryan Griffin.
Ryan Griffin, that was like the Zabruta footage. That was back into the left, back into the left.
I love Sam Mitchell. I think Sam Mitchell's a jet, and I like him as a bloke. But anyone who says that was unintentional, the second one, and this dates back to 2008. Nick Sheehan wrote a story in the Herald Sun back in 2008. A whole lot of Brisbane Lions players were accusing Sam Mitchell and Luke Hodge back then of doing exactly this sort of stuff.
What year was that?
2008.
Do you know he's had 2 knee reconstructions because he's worn them out from corky?
Sure he has.
When are you going to call? When are you going to actually call this for what it is? If you knee someone in the head and you knee someone in the back, it's called a knee. If you knee someone in the leg, it's a corky. I don't quite understand that
Sounds
part
like
of
fun.
it. It does.
Have a look. You got this bloke. This is Fife at a photo shoot. I'm starting to think it was warranted. I think this is a clip from his new film, Magic Fife.
I see that, Mickey, and I'm now pro Sam Mitchell. I'm with you.
Where does the dead leg corky, where does that sit when it comes to the great acts of
The
unsportsmanship?
pantheon of unsportsmanlike behaviour.
Is it somewhere near the podium, do you reckon, or not?
Well, that's up there. Probably the best corky I ever saw was Tonya Harding on Nancy Kerrigan. That's up there. What about Hopewate?
Well, you've left the gold medalist off the table, you
The Hopowate's got to be up there for unsportsmanlike behaviour.
Right there.
Right there. That's getting your prostate checked on the field is not what I would consider to be the high watermark of sportsmanship. And what I liked was after football, he went into boxing. Hopewate.
Yeah.
Well, at least they've got the gloves on. It's kind of safe. Where are those?
Oh, you know what? Last time I saw you, you say he went into boxing. Yes. I know for a fact after boxing he was a bouncer. I was at lining up at a club in Sydney, and he was on the door. Right. I've never been more well behaved in a life.
I hate to ask what the pass out was, but
now that Sammy's you mentioned that he's only getting good players. Like, he doesn't waste the knee on ordinary players. He goes right for the A graders.
Well, we've got a good game this weekend, haven't we?
Taking on the Swannies.
Hawthorn, Sydney.
Who
do you reckon should be a little nervous? The Sydney Swans. I've made a list here. I think Buddy, obviously. Right. He could be a target for a good corky. Number 2, Hanbury. I reckon he's up there. And number 3, the old bloke Kenny. Behind the goals, he's there. He's been around for a while. I wouldn't put it past him to just take him down at some stage.
Can I just add one more, Mickey? Just because Mitchell is in such good form with this corky, by the way. If I was John Longmire, I'd be very careful at quarter time. Just going out to the huddle at quarter time, you might get him.
This is something we have to deal with. It's the player code or the past player code. And I think once you move out of playing, you have to understand your commentator, and the public has a right to know. Because Jude Bolton was doing some boundary riding as an ex-player. He has to work out if he's a commentator or an ex-player. Here he is interviewing Sam Mitchell immediately after the game about the corky.
And anything to worry about with that little clash with Fife early on?
I'm not sure.
Just a little knee, nothing much. It's all good.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know about that one. You can't.
Sorry about that. All good.
Only joking. Don't do it again. You did some boundary.
I did. I did. I asked Barry Hall once. Remember that day Barry Hall nearly killed Scott Thompson?
Yep.
I think he kicked a few that day as well. I interviewed Barry Hall after the game, and in the ear with the producers going, ask him about Scott Thompson. Ask him about Scott Thompson. So he played well, good win next week. Ask him about it. Ask him about it. And then his eyes narrowed, his lips narrowed. I thought he was going to hook me. But I think every now and then, when you know that something's going to be a major talking point, you're duty to ask the question.
It's your job. It's your job.
Well, I would say this. You're right about Jude Bolton. He's going to make a decision because he was a great player. But at the moment, as a boundary rider, he's making me miss Ricky Olorenshaw. So Mickey's right. You got to decide who you are.
Who do you like? Who sticks out for you as one of the greats?
Mickey, there is only one. Before Bolton and Ola Renshaw, there was Dipper. Right. And Dipper's the greatest boundary rider the game's ever seen. Yes. And I'll never forget this. It was a game against Carlton in the mid-90s. It was just before the bounce at the second quarter, the start of the second quarter. And he yelled excitedly up to Dermott in the box. He said, Dean Rioli's all alone in the back line. The Bombers are playing a loose man in defence, right? And Dermy said, actually, Dipper, he's playing up forward and the Carlton defender hasn't picked him up yet. That was Dipper. That is the best of all time.
Bad. But I tell you what, Jude Bolton, he's an ex-Sydney player who's taken up boundary riding.
There's a pedigree.
There is a pedigree, and it goes right back to Brett Kirk. And he may have come up through the same school. Let's have a look at some of Brett's best work.
We're going to exchange ideas, thoughts, and even our energy. And to speak from your heart, you need to have courage. You need to be honest and authentic. We're not always going to get it right, and sometimes you're not going to agree with us. But that's okay, because just like you, we care. Just like you, we're passionate about the game. So if you want to come along for the ride, join us on Saturday Arvos, because we just love the footy.
Yeah, you're right, Brett. You're not always going to get it right. I think it's something we can learn to live with over time, don't you think?
I watched that and I wanted Sam Mitchell to come in from the side.
One of the other big talking points out of the round was Brent Harvey, who's closing in on game 400, 399 this week.
This was a tough score, wasn't it?
Whack him in the subs vest at the start of the game, Brad Scott. North Melbourne have been saying this.
You can't even get in the huddle.
The worst thing about it was the concussion. They get the concussion 20 minutes, so he comes on. And then the bloke goes back. It was Kane Turner is reintroducing it again. Brent Harvey has to go and whack the subs vest back on. He would have been hating that.
Would he play the 400 in the vest? Would Scott do that to him?
Surely not. I mean, is there a touch of cruelty about that? I mean, North Melbourne are in the mix. They're trying to play finals footy, and they're not worried about an individual play. But if he's good enough to be in the 22 for his 400, then surely, I mean, it's an unbelievable milestone.
Sending a message.
You've got to.
How old is he? How old is he?
37.
37. If he is actually in the vest for his 400th. Yeah. Maybe it should just be like a sub cardigan, you know what I mean? Just to keep him warm. Because I noticed in that vest that he had on the weekend had a little pocket for his glasses. So it just could be a time when it's come to it. You know what I mean?
Why don't you have one of those motorised scooters to go up and down the boundary line as he comes?
Let's just if he does play his 400th, let's hope. I don't even have a look at the fixture, but let's hope it's not one of those twilight games, that 4:30 games, because that's when he likes to have dinner.
Fantastic matches for round 16. Grand final replay is probably the standout. Will Hawthorn do to Sydney what they did to Freo last week, make another statement. Big Sunday, isn't it? The emotional showdown over in Adelaide for Phil Walsh, of course, and the Maddies match at Etihad Stadium, St Kilda v Richmond's.
It's going to be a big occasion. Get along. $5 of every ticket.
Yep.
Goes to a great foundation to remember Matty Rewald.
Do you have a role in that day, Mickey?
When you say role, I may be turning up in my Speedos, which might be part of Big Boy Week at Richmond.
Friday night footy, Essendon taking on North. Good to see Brad Scott back in the box last week, but there was going to be some touch and go as to whether James Hird would be in the box against him on the weekend, given the bike accident he had.
Heard the bike accident. He's fallen off and he's concussed himself.
Yes. Do
you reckon there's ever been a bloke in history who's prayed for amnesia? from a head knock? Oh, no, I can't remember anything of the last 3 years. What's been happening? So, that's a good look. Well, a bloke who's been to France so often, I would have thought he'd know how to ride a bike, but there you go.
I think that was when they found the bike and Hurdy was there and there was 2 baguettes coming out of a little basket in the front. So I think Hurdy was there. Actually, do you know how it happened?
He got his tyres stuck in tram tracks on Toorak Road, apparently.
Either that or Sam Mitchell got him. We're not really sure. One or the other.
Collingwood taking on West Coast.
They have to win. Collingwood have had 3 honourable losses. This has got honourable loss written all over it. 200 for Swanee last week, wasn't that awesome?
250, wasn't it?
250 games. It's a great effort, and I'm glad he's still playing because have a look at his twin brother. I mean, when you give up the game, it's not going to be good for him, is it? It's really not.
You know when blokes retire, how they kind of pull the ripcord? Yes. I reckon Dane Swan could look like that 3 days after he retires. I'm telling you. When he retires, mate, it's going to go quick.
People said last week that there weren't many highlights from round 15. It was pretty dour weekend of footy. I put to you that we actually saw the fan mark of the year.
Oh, so bad.
That's a great mark. And Murray, you're right. That is a great mark.
Well, what about goal of the year? Have a look at this. The guy's trying to get the ball off him.
Close attention.
Look at this. He does 2 balks. There's another balk. And then bang. Threw the goals off 1 step. Look at learn Travis Coke. That, I would have him down there at Collingwood training, beer in one hand, didn't spill it out. 1 step, dummy, bang, 6 points.
Well,
that's how it's done.
I do know for a fact that Carlton is looking at both those blokes.
St Kilda v Richmond, fantastic. It's big,
Sunday twilight, get along.
Feel a bit for Nick Reeve. Did the calf late in the game against the Giants last week. If it was any other game in a home and away season, he probably wouldn't play this week. Yeah. But he's going to have to go out there, I reckon, the skipper, underdone with a dodgy calf. But I think for the good of the game, St Kilda supporters will put up with that, won't they?
I think they want him.
Yeah, I think they will too. Will Trent Cotchin play? That's the question. I mean, there was some very unusual post-game activity last week with Trent Cotchin. Got the ice pack down the strides.
Yeah. And the worst thing about this was he actually injured his shoulder. That's why it doesn't make no sense to me. I reckon he'll play.
Hey, before we go, is it your birthday today?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Ah, that explains the old man smell. I've been worried about happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, mate.
That's a birthday drink.
Yes.
Cheers.
Happy birthday,
Let's stay back 1 or 2 after the show, shall we?
Yeah, all right.
Write down a couple of brewery Carlton drafts on the way out. We've been here at the All Nations Hotel. Thanks for joining us on the Friday Front Bar.